Well, for more on the fallout caused by the riots, I'm joined by our international affairs editor, Philip Turl. Philip, then these riots are not projecting a very positive image of France around the world, are they?
Well, my telephone has been buzzing over the weekend with people asking, is it safe to travel to France if I get off the ferry in Calais or arrive at Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris? Will I be able to go anywhere, or will I be mugged or my car set on fire? Of course, you can come to France. It's still safe. There are one or two flashpoints, but the image that has been projected by the pictures we've just been watching on the screen that have been picked up by television stations all over the world are giving a disastrous image of the country across the globe, and that is something that is a serious problem for the French government. It's not new. If you look back to the past decades, you had the 1968 riots. That was a long time back, 50 years or more, but you have more recently the riots of 2005, which lasted for 3 weeks, that seriously hampered the tourist trade. Then more recently, since Emmanuel Macron himself has been president, there are all these problems that you've got written up behind me here. First of all, the yellow vest protest back between 2018 and 2020, protests around the country. The Champs-Élysées in Paris was ransacked, boutiques were smashed. We've seen that around the country then. There was a fall in bookings. The image of France was seriously damaged. Then, of course, tourism was interrupted during the COVID crisis for 2 years, between 20 and 2022. It's now got back on its feet, but there have been more protests. First of all, oil refinery strikes, where one couldn't fill up one's car with petrol last year in the autumn and again this spring. And of course, the strikes over pension reform that led to the cancellation of a state visit by Britain's King Charles III back in April. So this is bad news, basically. We've got more protests in France, and it's affecting the tourism industry. So if you look at the figures for tourism over the past few months, well, it was on the up for the first months of this year, 11.6 million visitors to Paris. That's 27% more than in 2022. But already there are reports from the Paris Tourist Office saying that 20 to 25% of tourists have cancelled their visits. Back in 2005, that figure was 30%. And there are fears now that more people are going to decide they don't want to come to France this summer because they're just a bit worried about the situation. And there have been warnings from nations around the world, mostly more importantly from the British Foreign Office, because a lot of Brits come to France for their holiday, saying that basically their nationals should monitor the media, avoid protests, check the latest advice with the operators when travelling, and follow the advice of the authorities. And the United States Embassy in Paris has also issued a warning saying basically that US citizens should avoid mass gatherings. That's also going to undermine, I think, some people's willingness to come to France. The United States linking what's happening in this country right now to the George Floyd affair of 2020. So all in all, not very good news for the French government or for the tourist industry.
And aside from the tourist industry, there's been an effect in terms of worldwide geopolitics affecting France.
That's the other bad news for the government, because a lot of countries have decided to point the finger at France. Notably, Iran has issued a statement. That was yesterday from the Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman, Nasser Kanani. This was basically a tit-for-tat statement over France's support for the protesters over the Mahsa Amini death last year, and women taking their heads scarves off. So they're saying, well, look, we recommend that both the French government and police pay attention to the protesters' demands while avoiding all forms of violence. And there have also been there's been disappointment in Germany, where Emmanuel Macron was due to go today for a state visit, second state visit that's been interrupted because of protests in France. He's staying here to deal with that problem. This was going to be an important visit to Germany. It's not going to take place now, discuss many important issues. And Olaf Scholz saying that he's preoccupied with the situation in France and hoping that President Macron will find a solution to make sure the situation rapidly improves. So it's also not very good news for France on the international geopolitical front either.
OK, well, thanks very much, Philip. Philip Turl there, our international affairs editor, talking to us about that effect overseas.